Barcelona is known for its art and architecture. It is home to Gaudi's masterpieces. This Catalan city is Europe's largest metropolitan city on the Mediterranean coast. So if you're considering moving to this Catalan city, here are the 10 things you should know before moving. Good morning. Today's video has to do with Barcelona. Specifically the 10 things you should know before moving to Barcelona. Or at least the 10 things I wish I knew before moving to Barcelona, but maybe it can help you out as well if you're planning on moving to Barcelona in the near future. So something I want to mention before, that's good, I start the video. These 10 things in this video are based on my experience. And what I mean by that, I am someone who has lived abroad before. I lived in Chile and I've had some travel experience before. This list is a combination of what I found not necessarily shocking, but I was surprised about. I didn't really realize like these things I should have known or been prepared for, or what I wish I would have prepared more in depth with or for prior to moving to Barcelona. And so this is where this video comes from. Let's get started. Hey there, if you're new to this channel, my name is Ashely and I share all things navigating life abroad. So let's just get right in to the list of the things that I wish I knew before moving to Barcelona. The first thing, and probably I think one of the most important things, supermarkets are closed on Sundays. And there's a few little caveats that I want to discuss. So if you're looking to go to your supermarket and get your, weekly groceries on a Sunday, you cannot do that. So don't be like me, who when I first got there, I planned poorly and there was one weekend where I didn't go to the supermarket and I basically had to eat whatever I could find in my apartment and eat out mostly because I couldn't go to the supermarket. In addition to supermarkets being closed on Sundays, a lot of stores are actually also closed on Sundays. And I think coming from the US, from New York, there's very much this culture that Sundays are your days to like run errands or do things like that. Maybe you can go shopping, go to a mall. And in Barcelona, you cannot do that. I'm not going to speak for all of Spain or like the rest of Europe, but in Barcelona, clothing stores, shoe stores, and things like that are not open. Don't count on a Sunday to do those things because they are closed. There are a few exceptions to this. During like, I believe it's like the summer period, like late early spring to like summer, they'll have like these summer hours where their stores, Primark, is it Primark? I never know how to say it. Let me know. H&M, Zara, they will be open on Sundays, but that's not all year. That's only like a period of time. And then during the holidays, stores will be open again on Sundays. Supermarkets will still not be open on Sundays. And in Barcelona, I found that there are a lot of holidays. They have a lot of celebrations every month or so. And sometimes those holidays can land on like a Thursday or a Friday, or maybe even a Saturday. You have to plan logistically when you're gonna go shopping. And then you also have to be careful with like certain holidays. Like if there's a holiday that falls on a Friday and you think, okay, well, I'm gonna go do my shopping on a Friday, but then that week there is a festival or a holiday on a Friday, the supermarket will be closed. Therefore, you can't go grocery shopping Friday or Sunday, you're gonna have to do Saturday. So it's just like those minor little things when it comes to like your day-to-day life to really pay close attention. Not very vegetarian friendly. Okay, just bear with me here for a minute because I'm not sure if everyone will agree with me on this take, but from my experience, I found that it wasn't the most vegetarian friendly city based on two factors. The first factor is I like to see if there's a variety of vegan or vegetarian options or products that are available in a supermarket and if it's accessible. Like that's a big part of it as well because there will be a lot of like specialty stores in any city that just solely sell vegan, vegetarian, organic products. But I like to see like comparison to where I have lived prior or even traveled to, how accessible are these vegetarian vegan options in a supermarket in your neighborhood. And I found that in Barcelona, where I lived particularly, but in like most supermarkets, there were options, but it wasn't a wide variety. If you went to like a bigger maybe supermarket, you could find something there. But like for example, my Mercadona, there were a couple, one brand of tofu, and sometimes they were like not even have it, or like one type of like vegetarian or vegan like burger patty. And there weren't anything beyond like those same options basically my entire time there. So I like to look at that to see like how vegetarian friendly. The second thing I look for is vegetarian or vegan options at a restaurant. Before anyone tells me, but the Barcelona has so many. Yes, Barcelona has a lot of vegetarian and vegan restaurants where almost the entire menu is vegan or vegetarian. and they're great. I've been to them. There was like this one burger place that is absolutely divine and I love it. I think it's called Vegan Junk Food. But sometimes your social group isn't vegan or vegetarian. And yes, of course, like your friends accommodate, and my friends did, and every once in a while we go to a vegan or vegetarian restaurant. And so I found that the vegetarian, or well, mostly vegetarian, I wouldn't even say vegan, and they were the same kind. There was always pizza, pasta as an option. Occasionally they would be like a veggie burger option, and it would be just one of those really complicated vegetarian like burgers where it's like beet and this combination of something with pesto and tomato, and it's like sweet, and it's like you want something savory but you need the protein, so you've got it. So it was like one of those vegetarian like burger veggie options. And of course they have a bocadillo, but the bocadillos are usually always, well, it's always the same in my experience. It was always bread with cheese and some tomato on it, and that would be the vegetarian. I'm not gonna even say vegan because it's not. Based on those two factors, I found it not to be difficult, because I think it's 100% possible and totally doable living in Barcelona as a vegetarian. Like, but in terms of like how friendly the city is towards vegan and vegetarian, it's not. On a little side note, in my experience, I found that you have to be very specific about the fact that you do not eat any type of meat. There'll be many times where I would say like, because in English we're like, you know, I'm a vegetarian, like I don't eat meat, and like that's just kind of like understood. You can't say like I just don't eat like, you know, like meat or chicken. Like you have to make sure you include fish, because if you say I'm a vegetarian, a lot of the times they'll point you to this one option like in a cafe or something where they sell like bocadillos, like sandwiches, and they'll be like, oh, we have like this one, and it's usually the atún con vegetal, which is basically like a tuna salad type of sandwich, and they'll point to that as like your vegetarian option, and you have to be very specific, like no, I don't eat any fish, meat, or chicken. And sometimes they'll be like, no, we don't have any. You're just like, okay, thank you, I'll just take a coffee. And that's it. So just like a little thing to keep in mind for my vegan vegetarian people out there. So Barcelona's summers, they almost took me out. I'm not even kidding. I knew that it was going to be warmer. What I did not expect was how humid and how hot it can get in Barcelona. AC is not a thing in Europe. That's something that is common knowledge for the most part. That's something that I knew and I was really mentally prepared for, but it is really, really humid and really hot. So just feel sticky. You could take a shower and you go outside and you feel like you need to take a shower again because your entire body is just so sticky. And I was not a fan. I didn't expect it to be so hot and humid. In addition, I come from a place where we have 4 seasons. Like when it's summer, you know when it's winter, you know when it's fall, and you know when it's spring. If I'm honest, I actually don't really know if Barcelona is like categorized into like 4 seasons. But for me personally, it just ran in like 2 seasons. It was kind of like a hot summer and then like a warmish fall, if you will, for me. Because the humidity's felt pretty much all year round. It does go down a little bit when it's like the colder months, you know, November, December, but it still feels relatively, you can still kind of feel the humidity because it's just that humid. But the weather in Barcelona, for me, like what I experienced, and they did say that it was like not normal, around May, like it was already warm. 80 degrees. It was warm and it just got progressively warmer and progressively more humid. And it was like that until like end of October. So that's a very long time to be feeling like it's summertime. When in your mind, you're coming from a place that October, November, it's already fall time and it doesn't feel like that. For me, I come from a place where like cold is cold, and so for me, like what is considered winter in Barcelona is not necessarily that cold, so that's something to take into consideration. Pharmacies. If you've traveled to Europe or come from Europe, even like in South America, this might be very specific to someone coming from the US, I believe. In the US, we don't have like a pharmacy the way they have in Europe or even in South America. We have things like CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, even like Walmart has pharmacies where you can get many things. You go to CVS, there's food that they sell there. They sell makeup, they sell magazines, toiletries, like school supplies, they sell everything in a CVS. And you can also go and get medicine that is over the counter, or there's a pharmacy there where you get medicine prescribed from your doctor where you have to go pick it up. In Barcelona, and I honestly, even like my experience living in Chile, is kind of the same. So this is not really a surprising one for me, but I feel like it's one that I should mention. If someone is moving for the first time and might not really know this. Living in basically another country, I think, apart from the US, pharmacies run very differently for medicine, and there will be some times where some pharmacies, like the ones in France have a lot of skincare, even some makeup, and in Spain it's just the same. But the one thing I did want to point out is the medicine. If you like are someone who really takes like a specific type of medicine in the US, like when you have a sinus cold or something like that, just make sure that you bring that medicine with you. You're not really going to find Dayquil or NyQuil in Barcelona. And so I have some of the options that were given. And this is, I guess, where maybe the things that I wish I knew. I didn't bring medicine because I just figured like it's fine. Like I've been sick abroad before, I'll just get medicine there. When my mom went to go visit me in May, I made her bring some of my medicine from the States. Like I'm sure the medicine is different. Maybe there are certain things in those medicines that you probably are not even allowed in Spain or something, but I like taking like capsules and as medicine. I don't really like putting things in water and drinking them. Like that's not really my vibe. These were the items that I got. Powder. And these tablets that you put in water and they will dissolve and you drink it. And that is essentially the medicine. And I'm a little bit under the weather right now, so like maybe I will actually take some of this to show what it looks like. Can you see that color? So if you're someone who really doesn't like taking medicine, doesn't really like the taste of medicine, bring your own medicine. You know what you like, and that's just something I really wish I knew. So the next thing I wish I knew was the Catalan Pride that is experienced and lived every day in Barcelona. So now before moving, I knew that Catalan was spoken, but where my ignorance, I would say, comes in is that because of my lack of research, I didn't realize how in-depth and how intertwined Catalan pride and Catalan culture is in everyday life. Someone from the outside looking in doesn't know, I think, the day-to-day or even like the geopolitical issues that are going on in Barcelona. And I think this is where the research and being really intentional and making sure you're prepared, not just maybe even like with language or logistics, but also when it comes to culture as well before moving to a specific country. It's something that I've recognized and I've mentioned that I didn't do my due diligence. And therefore, when I moved, I didn't realize, you know, how some sensitive certain issues are, how mindful I think one should be when moving to Barcelona and prepared in this particular sense. Because, you know, you never want to offend anybody. You always want to be respectful as best as you can. Of course, you make mistakes. I've made them and you will be corrected very quickly. Something that I was kind of jarring to me was at the beginning, you know, I just had a foundation in Spanish and I figured I'll be okay. Like it's a different Spanish, of course, but I'll get used to it. If I did it once, I can do it again. And the surprising part to me was that Catalan is spoken everywhere. Advertisements, the announcements on the train, and young kids will be speaking Catalan to each other, families, you know, colleagues, and even like on job, you know, requirements, they'll ask if you speak Catalan. Understanding how intertwined the language is from very early on and in everyday life comes with also that pride and that culture as well. You'll understand that very quickly that the people in Barcelona, in Catalunya, don't consider themselves Spanish. They consider themselves Catalan. You're not in Spain, but you're in Barcelona. And it's very important to be very mindful of that and how you speak. Be respectful towards that. I think that's very important to have that in mind. And if you're walking even like in subtle ways, like in the street, you won't really see ever a Spanish flag in the city. Will have the Catalan flag on their balconies or in the stores. Only government buildings will have the Spanish flag and the Catalan flag as well. Do your research, be aware of those things, of those nuances, and be as respectful as possible. Over tourism. They aren't a fan of tourism in general in Barcelona, specifically like certain neighborhoods. For example, Gracia. If you walk Gracia, you will see a lot of, I'll just put it up on the screen, this type of graffiti, street art, if you will, written kind of all over Gracia. Almost every single street that you walk down, if you look to the sides, you will see this message of it. And I think that's something just very important to note in general when you are going and moving, because at first it kind of be jarring. I remember when I walked around, I was just like, what? Like, wow. I didn't take it offensively, but I was just really shocked by it. I didn't expect like it was everywhere in this one particular neighborhood. You'll see it around other places too, but in that one particular neighborhood, it's a lot. And I think it just goes to being prepared, open-minded, and understanding when you are moving to another place and understand where people are coming from. Particularly in this one neighborhood, there's a lot of gentrification that happens. There's a lot of people that are being like priced out of their homes because a lot of tourists are coming because of Airbnbs to stay in this neighborhood, and the price goes up, and then the people who live there can't afford to live there. I think that's just something to be mindful of when going, especially if you're moving there, to really, if you have the opportunity to understand, to listen, to have, you know, an open mind, open heart. The bureaucracy system. I'm not talking about the whole bureaucracy system, because bureaucracy anywhere is very annoying, even here in the United States. Like, people aren't always the nicest, you know, they yell at you sometimes, make you cry as well. It happened to me. So I'm not gonna take the whole system here because it's fairly similar, I think, to other places, but there's one particular thing that I want to talk about that I didn't realize how important this one step is in order to get everything else that you need. And this part I want to underline, bold, highlight, put some stars around this word. It is the importance of your empadronamiento. This document you need, and it's just like a piece of paper that you get the same day that you make your appointment. This paper you essentially need when you apply for your TIE, and your TIE, which is basically your identity card, is what you need to open your bank account. Maybe it has to do something with your cell phone. Essentially everything else that you need to do in the country, you need this ID card. But in order to get this ID card, you need this document. In theory, it's not complicated, but it's time sensitive, a lot of the things, because you need this in order to get this, and you need this to be able to do this, this or that. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. And the part that comes into play is the housing aspect of it. You need to find a place to live. But not only that, you have to make sure that wherever you find to live, that the person, whether it's the other like person on the contract, the person who owns the space, whatever the case may be, is willing, is agreeing, knows that you're going to need empadronamiento. And in order to get that document, there are a few different documents that you need, like a copy of the contract, like a few other things. You have to make sure that you're very diligent about it. You are reading all of the requirements that you need just for the empadronamiento, because you need this document in order to apply for your TIE. And so it's a lot of little steps in order to get this one document that you need in order to get something that's very crucial to your time in Barcelona. Move into the next part, but specifically like interior, exterior rooms. The way the buildings are set up, basically, like, I'm gonna try to draw that. It's essentially like a square with like a little mini square in the middle. And that mini little square in the middle, you have like little balconies, usually where like washer and dryers are, and they face inward. So you can like see your neighbors like across, like upstairs, downstairs sometimes, because there's like an inward facing aspect to all the buildings. And a lot of rooms will be inward. So like, for example, my room was interior, which means I had no natural sunlight during my time there. But if that's something that you're concerned about, or that's something that you value in terms of like having a room that has sunlight, natural sunlight, a window to get air in, because that also affected like how hot the summers could be. Dogs. Oh, my list is a little interesting. Okay, one thing that Barcelona is a very dog-friendly city. And maybe that's just like a cultural thing in general, maybe in Europe. People take their dogs everywhere, and you can take them everywhere, which is also like a huge difference. Not only can you take them outside, but you can also take dogs inside restaurants. I saw many times eating indoors, people taking their dogs in, and like the staff will give, you know, dogs some water. So they're very dog friendly. Even in stores, you can take dogs in. The metro as well. I don't think there is like a specific law, because I saw dogs of all sizes walking like onto the train, like only with their leash, which is very different, because here in New York, there is a law. You can't take a dog, like just walk your dog onto the subway cart. They have to be able to fit in a bag, where dog owners literally will put their dogs in like IKEA bags. Just, you know, their dog is technically in a bag, so they can go on and ride the train. But in Barcelona, like, that's not a thing, or at least if it's a thing, they don't enforce it. For transportation, it was just something that I wanted to mention. If you're someone who maybe is worried about moving to Barcelona because it's a city, and maybe you never lived in a city, or you don't really know how public transportation works, just know that the one in Barcelona is probably one of the best public transportation systems that I've ever experienced. I come from New York City. The one horrible thing that we have in New York is literally our transportation system. It can be so unreliable. It's also really dirty, not the safest sometimes. And in Barcelona, it's honestly just quite the opposite. There are so many options. Not only do you have the metro, you have the bus, we also have the tram, the ferrocarril, which is just another train system, and it's the one actually that I took when I had to go to my university. It's just a really great system. It's really safe. It's not a 24-hour system like it is in New York. It does close, I believe it's like midnight on most nights, and then the only time it's 24 hours is from like Saturday to Sunday. It doesn't like close technically, it just keeps running throughout the night and stuff. But it's one of the best systems, and it's very easy to figure out. So if you're just concerned about that, don't worry. It's super easy. It's very accessible. There are so many options. I felt safe taking the metro. Sometimes in New York, it can be questionable how safe you feel, but in Barcelona, I honestly felt very safe. So those are the things that I wish I knew before moving to Barcelona. Again, this list is based on my experience. So if you are currently living in Barcelona or have lived in Barcelona in the past and you have something to add to the list, make sure you let me know down in the comments. If you want more videos about Barcelona, navigating life abroad, make sure to subscribe. And if you liked this type of video and are curious to see what were things I wish I knew before I moved to Chile and you want to see if there were similarities or differences, make sure to watch this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao!